What up, Gripsters and random YouTubers? Evan here for Grips.com. I just got back from Las Vegas from the 2016 World Series of Poker Final Table. Quite possibly the best trip I've ever had to Las Vegas. I know I keep saying that every time I get back from Vegas, but the reason I keep saying that is because every time I go down, better things happen. It's a factor of being more kind of established in an environment, more comfortable in an environment, having more places that I know are my go-tos, having more people that I know are my, my family, my tribe. So every time I go visit them, it's like going home. Despite the fact that I'm going on vacation, it feels like I'm going home. And as I get more comfortable in the environment, and as I add more kind of people and places and things and experiences to my whole picture of what it is to be in Las Vegas, Nevada, that gets stronger and stronger and deeper and enriches my experiences more and more and more. Let's talk about the unlikely champion, Qui Nguyen. Qui Nguyen! What a fucking boss, dude! That guy came to the table. He was just like, yo, man, I got this. And I got a whole little thing written up, which I'm going to draw from, because I was like, I'm just going to make some notes before I go live and talk about what I have to say, and then I ended up just writing like a little novel. So I want to make sure that I don't miss any of my key points, because, man, Qui Nguyen, he just opened my mind and opened my heart and opened my excitement levels. Yeah, okay. So, Qui Nguyen. First things first, battle is different than business. I was talking before how, when it comes to the matters of business, we want to use the rational mind. But when it comes to matters of battle, when it comes to matters of competition, when it comes to matters of war, you want to be using the full intelligence, baby. You want to be using the rationality of the mind. You want to be using the energy of the heart. And you want to be using the instincts of the gut. So we got three brains, right? The gut brain gives us the instinct. The heart brain gives us the compassion, the connection to other people's emotions, which are very powerful on a big stage when people are under a lot of pressure. And then the mind gives us the rationality. And when it comes to competition, ideally you want to be using all of them. And Qui Nguyen is someone who I felt had a lot of heart this year, which showed in his play. And I think that's one reason that he really rose above the rest. So if you haven't watched the coverage yet, I encourage you to go back and watch the coverage after hearing this, because I'm going to talk about a bunch of hands that happened there, and if you don't see them, they're out of context. But immediately, Qui Nguyen set the tone. He set the dynamics. First hand of the final table, this guy opens ace-4 offsuit from the hijack. Fine. Maybe a little loose, but whatever. And Johnny backs is like, all right, this is my table. I got position on the other big stack. I'm going to show him that I got this. I'm the boss. So he 3-bets him with Queen 9 to 3.5 million. And he comes back to Qui. He doesn't even take a minute. He grabs the call, grabs another 5 million. It's just like, what? He even put it in with that look like, dude, what? Come on. Puts in the 4-piece, backs folds. And immediately the tone is set. Don't mess with me. Maybe some people are thinking, he got dealt a good hand. Well, since all the cards were up half an hour later, everyone saw after half an hour, wow, this guy is not scared. This guy does not care about the other big stack battling. This guy is here to take first place. He's wild. Let's be careful. And he basically said, I'm the captain. This is my table. And he rolled with that the rest of the way. One thing that Qui Nguyen really was unpredictable. And that's really hard to play against. A couple examples of this unpredictability that we saw in Qui Nguyen was the hand against Veo and Ruan, where I believe Veo opened, Qui Nguyen Ruan called, and then Nguyen looks down in the big blind, has Queen 6 offsuit, and he's like, "It's a good spot. It's a good spot," and just grabs the chip, goes for the squeeze play, and fold, easy game. I think it was one of the best squeeze plays I've seen executed since the 2004 Final Table when Dan Harrington put in his squeeze against Josh Aurier and Greg Raymer. Because it really showed it's not about the cards, it's about the spot. And I think when you're using your mind, you're mostly thinking about the cards. When you're using your heart, you're really feeling the spot. You're really feeling the dynamics. You're really tuning in to people's fear factor and comfort level and knowing when they're ready to play a big pot and when they're not. And if you know when people are not ready to play big pots and you put the screws in, you put the raises on at that point, be it pre-flop or be it post-flop, you're going to win a lot of uncontested pots. And those uncontested pots are going to contribute to you having this big gap in chips between you and the rest of the field where you can take bad beats, where you can lose all-ins and still have the chips to play on. Okay. And just another example of unpredictability. There was one hand later where he opened nines, backs 3-betting with queen 10. Key calls. The flop is like 4-4-3. Key checks, backs c-bets. They're pretty deep. And Key just folds nines. I couldn't understand the play. And actually, when I ran into Key the last day at the World Series of Poker, I wanted to ask him about that hand, but he's packing up his car with his family, so I just took a picture. I was just happy to be in a picture with this dude. And maybe later I'll ask him, but it was confusing. He was very unpredictable, hard to put on a hand, hard to understand what he's doing. When you can't understand why someone's doing what they're doing, how can you figure out the best way to play against them? And that's a really big thing about just being totally wild, totally unpredictable. It's hard for people to figure out how to counterbalance it and play against you. Okay, so a big concept in poker is that the amount of action you get is all based on your image. If you're someone who's really seen as really tight and really conservative, don't expect to get a lot of action. The only time you'll be getting action is when people are trying to blow you off hands because they don't think you're strong enough to call down. See Wojtek Ruzicka barreling it off with ace-king against Gordon Veos instead of eights early on day 2. Now, if, however, you're seen as someone who's very loose, very wild, very crazy, someone who could be making moves with any 2 cards, suddenly you're going to get yourself a lot more action. You can get this image with your dress, you can get it with your play. When both of those things are saying the same message, well, you're going to be getting a lot more people buying into it and reacting accordingly. So, Key really did a good job building his image. First, just the way he's dressed, then he follows it up with his play. The dude's wild. And that's one of the reasons that he got action on his big hands. The last hand of day 1, he had aces against Kenny Hollard's ace-queen suited, and I think it was for 45 blinds, which was kind of a lot. And, he got all in. He got all the chips, and that put him in a great spot to do it on day 2. And that's where I really saw my shortcoming, is that he finished day 1 with a massive lead, was playing like a boss. And, I asked Cal and Griff who they thought was going to win because we went for dinner after and watched the final table while we were having dinner. Griff didn't care about busting. He just loves poker so much. He's like, I want to see what happens. I didn't get to play. I want to enjoy the show at least. What a great guy. What a fan. Love him. And they were just like, yeah, Key's going to win. Key's going to win for sure. I'm like, you guys are crazy. And one of the reasons why I've mentioned in multi-table tournaments, I mentioned in a recent article, there are certain players who just have no shot of winning because, they don't know how to close it out at the end. They don't know how to shift gears. But the truth is, weaker or less skilled players who play an aggressive game always have a chance of winning tournaments because, when you play aggressively, even if you get it in bad, you give yourself a chance to win. If the cards are in your favor, you're going to win. The players who I talk about who never have a chance to win are the ones who play too passive and are always folding too much, never calling down, never giving themselves a chance to get lucky. Qui Nguyen was the opposite of this, and that's why he's someone, who had what it took to get the job done. Okay. So yeah, Qui, he was there to win. It didn't seem like moving up was a concern. He really wanted to eliminate players. We saw this at the start of day 2 when he called Ruan's 20-ish big blind shove with pocket 4s. Some players say it's a standard shove. Other players say that, it's a standard fold. But he just wanted to eliminate those players and he made the call. Sure, he got it in bad, but still, 20% of the time, Ruan's out. He's got more chips, 4-handed, going to use those chips. We saw this 3-handed too with a pretty ambitious 3-bet call off with ace-4 offsuit against Bax's ace-queen. But again, at least he's giving himself a chance 25, 30% of the time. Backs is gone. Qui's heads up for all the chips and all the money. So he definitely was giving himself a chance when he was playing this style of just fearlessness, borderline recklessness, but hey man, I'm willing to take chances, and if the cards are in my favor, like, you're done. And when you're playing against someone who's like that, and you're someone who wants to ladder and make money, you don't want to play against that guy. You want to stay out of the way, which just allows him to get even more chips and, you know, smooth his way over to getting the job done. Another thing to talk about is that Qui was never rattled. He was always confident, and that was a major key for success. And when I heard about how he prepared for the final table, I actually believed in him a lot more. I watched his video, and it was pretty simple. He's like, I spent time with my kids, with my family. I spent time relaxing and enjoying life. And what better mindset to come to the final table with than life is beautiful, I'm happy, I am healthy, I've got a great crew with me. Whatever happens on this final table, my life is great. As opposed to, I need to get results here or else my life's going to be problematic. And I think he really came into the final table with no pressure, which allowed him to play in this way of, you know, applying pure pressure on everyone else and not really feeling it himself. You know, shorthanded, I thought maybe his lack of fundamentals might cut him up, but he navigated through and chipped up well. And once he got to heads up, the guy absolutely crushed it. If you want to see how to play heads up poker against a good but conservative opponent, watch Qui Nguyen. If you want to see the power of aggression, if you want to see someone who puts his opponent on a hand and recognizes when his opponent's hand is medium strength and just says, all right, I'm going to bet you off it, watch Qui Nguyen. This guy took so many bluff spots. He put on so much pressure. It was incredibly good to watch. I had so much fun watching that heads-up match. What I loved about Qui was he went with his reads. He trusted his instinct. He trusted his intuition. He trusted his emotions and his read on other people's emotions. He pounded on weakness. And this won him a ton of pots without showdown. Because he won all those pots without showdown, he was able to widen the gap and be able to withstand some swings. Now, to be fair, there was one major hand, and things could have been very different if Qui did not hit the king of clubs to make a flush against Gordon Bayo's two pair in that massive pot. Who knows how things would have been if that hadn't happened, but it seemed like every time Gordon got chips, he slowly whittled them away. Maybe it was card distribution, but it seemed like the way it was going was Gordon gets lucky, Qui muscles his way back in. Gordon gets lucky, Qui muscles his way back in. Oh, you ain't getting lucky this time. Over. That's just what I observed from watching, but you know, I'd love to hear what you guys thought about it as well. So, man, again, if you want to learn about like real, just strong, aggressive heads-up play, maybe you want to see some outside-the-box play, maybe get some ideas for what you could add to your own game, check out that match. Check out that match and realize that there's more than one way to win a poker tournament. There's more than one way to win a poker hand, and it's, you know, get away from the whole GTO box. Get outside of your game theory optimal. Be creative. Be exploitive. When you think someone's weak, pounce on it. When you think someone's strong, stay out of the way. And see how well you do when you just trust your reads. You just might find that you succeed a lot more. And most importantly, that you enjoy the process a lot more because you're playing from your own authentic self. You're playing from your head, but you're also playing from your heart. And you're not just feeling like you have to play a certain way and have to behave a certain way and limit yourself from, you know, giving your full expression at the poker table. So yeah, Qui Nguyen, man, he ran well, but he also played really well. And it's so awesome to see swag, heart, and self-confidence overcome the mathematical GTO approach to the game. So I just want to say a big, heartfelt congratulations to Qui Nguyen. You're the man, brother. Thank you for being an inspiration. And thank you for bringing a lot more fun and excitement to the poker community and to poker television. Okay, guys, all the talk about like the Griffin and the Kassouf thing, we got to be real here. ESPN chops the footage. You guys didn't see everything. That interaction that they had during that hand was like 10 minutes, and ESPN dropped it down to like a minute. So what you guys are seeing is not all of it. And, whether he's in line or out of line, that's always going to be people's opinions. Someone thinks something's right, someone thinks something wrong. So there is no conclusive, concrete thing of like, yeah, what he did was cool, what he did wasn't cool. Griffin was bothered by the way this guy had been behaving. Most of the people in the tournament were bothered by the way he was behaving. So for him to express that to him, fine. For him to choose choice words, fine. He could have said a lot worse things. I think what he said was pretty within reason. But again, that's just my opinion. And I've played with Kassouf before. He's pretty unbearable. And so I can see why people get mad. But that's his game. It works. It throws people off. That's his strategy. It's fine. Does that mean I like it? No. Does that mean I approve of it? Fine. Do whatever you're going to do. But for someone to act that way and to not expect people to throw it back at them, that's where it's kind of BS in my opinion. If you're going to dish it, you've got to be willing to take it. And if you're just going to dish it, but you don't think it's fair for other people to dish it back to you, you got to check yourself. Like that's where you do got to check yourself and see like what world are you living in? Because if it's just Will Kassouf's world where it's all about Will Kassouf, of course he can say whatever he wants and no one can say anything to him. But if you're living in the world where you actually think about yourself and think about others as well and think about how what you're saying affects other people and stuff, then you're going to be a little more in line and a little more reasonable with just how far you take your table talk and stuff. But man, he threw people off their game. He got good reads on people and he used that game to get very deep in the main event. Props to him. Does he deserve to get called out a little bit though and to get, jabbed a little bit back? Fuck yeah. You can't just it's just karma. That's just fairness. You're gonna be a dick. Don't be surprised when people are a dick to you. You get what you give. When you're nothing but a nice guy, people are generally gonna be nice to you. So I thought it was totally fine, totally reasonable. But again, that's just my opinion. You're gonna have your own opinion. And we cannot argue with people's feelings. So whatever you feel, as far as you're concerned, that's right. I'm never gonna try to tell you otherwise. Do I think Griff would have lashed out like that if he was holding a different hand? No, probably not. I mean, it's a lot easier to talk when you have aces than when you have kings. It's a lot more easy to talk confidently when you know you're going to win the hand. No, if Griff had like queens or jacks, I do not think it would have been the same because it's, you're going to be a little less confident when you don't have the goods there, and it's going to reflect in how freely and comfortably you talk. You know what I'm saying?